Hello, and thank you for coming to today's Savings Network webinar, Responding to Client Soon Needs. We're going to give folks a minute or two to join, so we'll get started shortly. Hello, and welcome to today's Savings Network webinar. Today's topic is Responding to Client Soon Needs. My name is Laura Yepes, and I'm a Senior Program Associate with the Savings and Financial Capability team. Thank you for joining today's presentation. This is the second in a series of 3 webinars covering the Now Soon and Savings Later model. Like many of you, Prosperity Now staff are fully remote, so bear with us if we experience any technical difficulties. Next slide. Getting the most of today's call. Join from a quiet space. Grab a coffee or a snack and settle in. Engage. Send us your questions and comments via the chat box. Tweet with us on Twitter using the hashtag ProsperityNow. And lastly, reflect on ways to apply what you learned to your own work. Next slide. Prosperity Now's mission is to ensure everyone in this country has a clear path to financial stability, wealth, and prosperity. Next slide. This webinar is being recorded and will be mailed to registrants and available within 1 week. All webinar attendees are muted to ensure sound quality. However, you can ask a question or share your thoughts anytime by typing into the text box of your GoToWebinar control panel. If you have any technical issues, please email gotomeeting@prosperitynow.org. Next slide. Before we begin today's webinar, we'd like to start off with a word from our sponsor. Please welcome Paula D'Ambrosa from the Prudential Foundation.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much. My name is Paula D'Ambrosa. I'm Director of Work and Wealth here at Prudential Financial, and I am so excited to introduce the second Prosperity Now Savings Network webinar of 2021. And thank you and welcome back so much for those who attended our first webinar, which is really excellent. So I'm very excited for today. This series comes at a critical time for savings as we grapple with the economic fallout of the COVID-19 crisis, and we look to support people in building financial stability and security as we hopefully emerge from this crisis in 2021. Throughout this webinar series, Prosperity Now will explore how we can support low to moderate income households with short, medium, and long-term savings goals and provide them with the flexibility they need to navigate a complicated financial landscape. Today, we are focusing on intermediate savings and how we can support families' savings goals while also ensuring that they can get by day-to-day basis. So very excited, and I will turn it back over to Prosperity Now so we can get started.
Thank you so much, Paula, for those remarks and for sponsoring today's call. So on the next slide, you'll see my face. Hi, I'm Parker Cohen. I'm the director of the Savings and Financial Capability team at Prosperity Now. And again, we'd like to thank Prudential Financial for their generous support for our savings work. And also, I'd like to thank, of course, everyone who's joining today for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for this conversation. So this webinar is the second in our series, as Paula mentioned, exploring how to support households around savings in 2021 as we grapple with multiple intersecting crises that are impacting both household finances as well as how financial services are designed and delivered. So today we'll be focusing on supporting household soon savings needs and ensuring that people have support in setting intermediate savings goals while also, critically being able to maintain financial stability. So we'll be discussing this in the context of the pandemic, of course, where so many households have had different financial experiences depending on the jobs they've held, their immigration status, their ability to access government aid, and so many other issues that have driven economic outcomes in this moment. So on the next slide, I am going to talk about today's agenda at a really high level. So we're starting right now with introductions and framing for the conversation. We'll then provide a quick overview of the all-in-one savings model that frames today's conversation and the webinar series as a whole. We'll also touch on some of our recently released research into savings needs and interests of low to moderate income consumers and what this tells us about the savings needs and how support people around savings right now during this moment as we continue to slog through the pandemic and hopefully, as Paula said, emerge towards a recovery. We'll then hear from a fantastic panel of speakers on their savings work, responding to clients' intermediate savings needs and how they've adapted their services during this time. We'll then open it up for Q&As or questions and answer from the audience, and also then wrap up and talk about next steps. So on the next slide, I want to introduce our hosts, and then so today, Parker Cohen, this is me again. I'm the Director of Savings and Financial Capability Team. I'll be your host along with Laura Yepes, who's a Senior Program Associate on our team at Savings and Financial Capability at Prosperity Now. On the next slide, I'm going to introduce today's speakers. We're really excited to have two incredible speakers from two different corners of the country joining us today. Leah Davis, the Senior Financial Coach from Oakland Promise, and Alphonse Piard, the Director of Financial Capability Services at the Haitian Neighborhood Center Incorporated down in Florida. So thank you so much to both of you for joining, and we look forward to a really robust conversation in a bit. Before we dive into that conversation, I want to move to our next part of the agenda, which is talking a bit about the continuum of savings needs and how Prosperity Now is looking at how we support savings in this moment. So if you go to the next slide, and then actually the next one after this, as we enter 2021, I think it goes without saying that Americans' financial lives are as complicated or more complicated than ever. As I noted in the last webinar, we're going to be continuing to frame our 2021 Savings Network activities around providing financial products and programs that meet low to moderate income households where they are in their financial lives, and also allow them the flexibility to meet their rapidly changing needs and savings goals. So that's where this framework comes in. Many of you may be familiar with this Now, Soon, and Later framework that helps us think of the spectrum of savings needs and how they overlap with each other. So in this framework, last time we really talked about the critical importance of having emergency savings, the ability to be able to fall back on short-term savings to meet day-to-day needs. And in addition to that, our focus for today's conversation is really how it's also essential for building financial security for individuals to be able to save, of course, for intermediate goals, such as a new vehicle, a down payment for a house, a vacation, something aspirational like that, or even something like school supplies for the fall when that's going to be an expense that's coming up. So But at the same time, we can't forget this now piece, and we need to ensure that people are able to flexibly meet immediate needs as well if they face a financial shock, have an expense that's larger than expected, et cetera. So today's webinar will be focusing on the intermediate savings, or soon, as we call it in the framework. And on the next slide, I want to take a little step back and highlight some of the research that we've conducted over the last couple of years that helps us understand this moment. So before this crisis, or the set of crises, started, we conducted a 6-part landscape analysis series to understand the background here for the savings crisis in America, what is driving this, and then also what are the savings products and programs available for low to moderate income households to support them with savings, and then which features they use to support savings, the experience consumers have when they're engaging with them, and how these savings products and programs are delivered to clients. So please visit our website to learn more about these results, which really underscore the need for flexible, holistic solutions that better reflect the complexity of people's financial lives and help them navigate the many barriers that make it challenging to save. And on the next slide, we conducted that research before the pandemic, right? And I think, what we really saw in that research and other research that we've conducted is that, ahead of this crisis, far too many households were in a place of great vulnerability. And then as a result of the pandemic, many drastic effects have occurred. And that the households that were left in this position of precarity were predominantly low wealth, had low wage jobs, were disproportionately racial and ethnic minorities, and immigrants, particularly undocumented immigrants and women broadly, were all vulnerable heading into this crisis. The pandemic, of course, and its economic fallout has had wide-reaching effects on household finances, including how people are using the savings they accumulated before this crisis, and how they're thinking about saving during this crisis, and then, of course, how they're actually saving during this crisis. So last August, we conducted some research, and we'll be carrying out additional research moving forward on this topic to explore how the most vulnerable households have navigated the financial impact of the COVID-19 crisis. Unsurprisingly, the impacts and the way people have navigated have been very complex. So we conducted this survey and found that nearly 40% of lower income households feel worse off financially as a result of the pandemic. Almost half of the households surveyed were unable to fully cover at least one basic expense, such as housing, food, or medical care during COVID-19. And about 84% of all lower income households surveyed were able to receive the economic impact payment under the coronavirus aid package. And however, lower income households that self-identified as white were roughly 8 percentage points more likely to receive a stimulus check than their Black or Latino counterparts. So these disparities we saw heading into the crisis have really continued and even worsened throughout. We saw that households had many strategies for navigating COVID-19, including using the economic impact payment, drawing down existing savings, skipping bill payments, and filing taxes for a refund. And again, Latino and Black households and those of the lowest income were most likely to turn to credit products that may increase their financial vulnerability down the road. So, where does this leave us with regards to meeting savings needs? As we discussed in the last conversation, households are in vastly different places, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Many households have been thrown into crisis, while some have been able to tread water and put something away for savings. And some are even doing better than they were at this point last year and have been able to maintain employment or get enhanced unemployment benefits. As a result, they're in a strong position to be able to save for intermediate goals right now. I think we saw in this survey, that nearly 40% of lower income households feel worse off financially, which means, 60% either feel the same or better. So the experiences are very diverse here. And we also know that savings attitudes have shifted across income levels in the pandemic, as many are feeling greater pressure to have savings to be able to fall back on for obvious reasons, given the chaotic situation, the ever-changing landscape around employment, and the COVID, the virus itself that we're facing. So in our conversation today, we're going to talk about how we approach supporting savings for low to moderate income households in such a complicated environment, and how we can help households build financial security while also maintaining their stability as we move forward. So on the next slide, before I turn it over to my co-host Laura, I want to highlight that we have virtual savings roundtables focused on savings coming up in February and also in March. And we're going to put this link in the chat for folks to be able to apply to join these. So please apply. There are limited slots, as we want to make it a really engaging conversation with everyone. And we're going to be touching on topics such as the interconnections between debt and savings, and supporting savings for low income earners more broadly. So we're really excited about this roundtable series. Please go ahead and apply before the end of the day, Thursday, February 4th. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Laura Yepes.
Hello again, everybody. My name is Laura Yepes, and I'm a Senior Program Associate with the Savings and Financial Capability team. Before we begin our panel discussion today, we're going to launch a couple of polls to hear more from the audience. So if we could go to the poll slide, and I will launch the first poll. So our first poll asks, what supports are clients asking for? Please select all that apply. Building savings, help accessing benefits, technological literacy, transportation funds, small home business startups, or if you have others, please submit them into the chat box. And I'll close the poll in a second or two. Okay, let's see. So it looks like most folks are asking for help accessing benefits, followed by building up savings. And then a lot of folks are still asking for transportation funds. We have some folks asking for technology literacy and small home business startups. Okay, great. Let's move on to our next poll. How have your savings programs shifted over the last year? And I'll launch the poll now. Please select 1, no changes in how we provide savings programs, shifted savings programs to also meet immediate needs, pause services like match savings, which require income. We didn't provide any savings programs in the past year. And if there's others, please tell us more in the chat box. And I'll let that run for a little bit. Okay, closing the poll now. So it looks like most of you did not provide any savings programs in the last year. Some have shifted your savings programs to meet immediate needs. And then there's a couple that haven't changed their savings programs at all or paused services. If you have others, please tell us in the chat box. We love hearing about others. So with that, I'll move on to the next part of our conversation, which is our panel discussion. Before we begin our panel discussion, just want to remind you guys of the technology. Next slide, please. This is a group discussion. However, all webinar attendees are muted to ensure sound quality. So please submit your questions into the chat box and we'll have our staff working on getting the questions to us. And let's get started with our panel discussion. Next slide. Today we have joining us Leah Davis, a senior financial coach from the Oakland Promise, and Alphonse Piard, the Director of Financial Capability Services from the Haitian Neighborhood Center, St. Law. And they're amazing. And we're going to get started with our first question. For both Leah and Alphonse, you each represent a different type of organization serving LMI communities. What are the student needs of your community and how is your organization meeting them? Let's start off with Leah.
Hi, yes, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. So I'm part of the Brilliant Baby program, which is one of the avenues that a family can get introduced to the overall services that the Oakland Promise provides. And so the soon needs that we address for our families is we basically start off with working with our partners in the community, other agencies where clients are signing up for their services. And at that time, they are given the opportunity to hear about the Brilliant Baby program if they have a qualifying infant that is able to participate in the program. So if the child is 12 months or younger, born in Alameda County, residing in Oakland, then and they're Medi-Cal eligible, we provide a college savings account for that child and seed it with $500. Then from there, we also offer the family with financial coaching. So they will have an opportunity to be contacted by one of our coaches, and they have access to 6 coaching sessions. And then for the first 3, we're able to provide them with a stipend payment of $100. So the family could receive up to $300 for participating in our program. And we provide that stipend payment either by check in the mail or through PayPal. I do know that we're currently looking into getting this into prepaid cards, which would be easier to manage the payments for our families. And how that helps our families, especially now through this pandemic, is they're able to access having some cash and having that relief. Some families are not accessing it right away and they're putting it towards savings because they have the ability to do that. But most families we're finding right now are using that for their immediate needs. And while I'm working with their coach as well, they're able to understand and figure out what it is that they want to accomplish in receiving that payment, if it's something that they're going to use for their immediate needs or maybe for sometime down the future. And with the coaching, they're able to really understand how to navigate the current challenges that they're experiencing and how they can just get by day to day. And so that's pretty much what we're doing right now with the Oakland Promise Brilliant Baby program, providing that coaching and also having conversations about those college savings account as well for their family and keeping that continuum going throughout that child's life so they can eventually go to college.
Awesome, Leah. That is amazing. I love the Oakland Promise and what it stands for and how much it helps families over the lifetime of a child's life. Next, we'll move to Alphonse. Alphonse, what are the soon needs of your community and how is your organization meeting them?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. St. Law has been in existence since 2020. And then as such, we have kind of built a kind of broad outreach to the community in South Florida. And to our program, the financial literacy that we turn in financial capability later on, we introduce tax preparation service, and we have other services that allow our constituents to find their way as well. For instance, we have an unemployment compensation claim, which is very on point. It was very on point during the pandemic. We have job development, and those two goes hand in hand with our financial coaching. So tax time, it's the place where people come and then get into kind of entry point, I would say, toward the different, services that we deliver. We have together we have something like 14 different services that we provide in that center, and financial coaching is one of them. And then we kind of branch out to the other one too, and then people come from the other ones as well when they come in, and when we do the assessment and the screening, and they are being routed to financial coaching as well. But what we've seen the most during that pandemic season, of pandemic period that start mid-March, was really an increase in unemployment benefit requests, public benefits a lot, and then what was important, it was our reaction during that pandemic, and the fastest we react, the better it was. So what we did, we closed our door for about a week and a half, and then after that we were able to come back very quick with limited staff, where we help people with their unemployment claim, their refund tracing, their stimulus tracing, their other thing also was our small businesses. I mean, which is essentially those people who are self-employed in the hospitality sector, and the taxi drivers. Those people were the one that really we see a need help and make a difference during that period. And of course, the EITC money that come from tax preparation service also serve as I would say, and we can use it to promote our saving to our client, and then they can save part of that money by buying saving bonds, or by putting aside some money for emergency needs, I would say. And furthermore, I think at Sandla, we have a program which is a part of a coalition with different organizations, where we promote the CSA, the Children's Saving Account, with Dade County Public Schools. And then this too has moved seriously last year to take more roots into the community and encourage family to save for their kids for the future.
Awesome, Alphonse. And of course, St. Laud just serves as a pillar in your community, and we're so honored that you're on this panel with us. But what I was noticing is that you both provide a very specific touch point for clients. For the Oakland Promise, it's the child savings account. For St. Laud, it's tax time and tax preparation. Yet you help throughout all of the different troubles that your clients are facing, especially right now, navigating their financial situation in such a tumultuous time. It just makes such a huge difference. So let's keep going. On our last webinar, one of our speakers, Ann Leland Clark from Prepare and Prosper, spoke about the range of people coming for services. She's talked about how there are families who are financially hurting, they're unemployed and unable to save, to families who have benefited from the stimulus while continuing to work, giving them some stability during this troubling time. What are you seeing happening for your clients? And we can start off with Leah.
Yes, thank you so much. I'll be honest and say that it's just a variety of what has worked for clients right now, especially when it comes to stimulus payment. But I would say the large majority of our clients used that stimulus payment rather quickly. There's very few who were able to set it aside because very few are still working. Many of our clients are unemployed and they're not able to work. There's the lack of childcare. They have multiple children at home that need to be online for their school studies. And the stimulus payment, even when they did receive it, it just wasn't enough. It was used up quick. And they barely help these families stay afloat. I mean, we're in the Bay Area and the cost of living is so high here. And the parents just didn't understand, why did we only get this amount of money? We need more than that. There's still, I just had a conversation recently with a client. She was still looking to be able to find some diapers. And that was an early on issue that we were experiencing in the pandemic in the first few weeks. So for me to hear that from her, that she is experiencing that, that is something that I'm going to be making sure that when I have my conversations with my client, asking that question again, you know, do you have enough diapers for your infants? So, you know, also our parents that are single parents, they've been hurt really hard with all of this. They've been hit really hard with it. They have the added stress of being a single parent, the primary income earner, they're not able to work. And a lot of them are feeling less valued in society because it's like, you know, as it is, I hear from clients often that they don't feel seen or heard, even at working with some of the agencies that are providing other benefits for them. Maybe it's because these agencies are so overwhelmed with the amount of people coming through, but our clients are struggling and feeling like they matter, and they feel like they're just not being seen, and they're grasping. So a lot of them are really having challenges, and this is impacting their emotional well-being. Their stress levels are high. So, you know, a lot of our coaching, what I've noticed lately too, has a lot to do with self-care to help them get through the day and through the week. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're seeing here when it comes to that. As far as the stimulus payments, the financial stability that we're able to provide our clients mostly is, again, just helping them navigate the day-to-day challenges that they're experiencing so that they can put food on the table, be able to try and pay some of their bills, and know that there will be light at the end of the tunnel, and providing them with resources whenever they come across our desk that can help them to continue to just try to thrive as best as they can.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Alphonse, what are you seeing happening with your clients in South Florida?
Yeah, thank you, Laura. I think that Leah just laid out a kind of common scenario, because we've seen this also in Miami, the same thing that is seen in Oakland over there. It's just, you know, with this situation, the pandemic situation, some of our clients were able to, I would say, to survive through the stimulus, but the stimulus was a kind of thin, like a drop in the bucket, you see what I mean? Because these are huge needs. Those people, they lost their jobs. They have you know, a lot of bills coming, not because they don't have a job. They're going to stay, and they have to pay those bills, and they have families, responsibilities, and on top of that, of course, the CARE Act, you know, all the benefits, the money that they put out there to help, as you know, contribute to give a certain stability to those families. And because of the forgivable loans, the PP loans, and then what we call the EIDL, you know, all those loans they were able to fund. The taxi drivers were able to find loan to pay off their car, and then they can look forward because they have that part of, you know, a year to wait before they start really paying on that. But don't forget, those are liabilities that you're moving toward time, so they will come up. And then if the pandemic continue to, I would say, to worsen, and these people, they will face dire consequences later on that, because they won't be able probably to reimburse SBA loans when it comes, because most of them probably they're going to start their reimbursement in April, May, June. So it's important to notice as well. A lot of people didn't receive the stimulus because they moved, because they went to those tax papers that are unscrupulous. So, and then the IRS didn't have a place to send their stimulus really. And then because they have the money went back to the IRS, so they have to wait. So, and we are there to really to give them that hand and to help them claim those stimulus back. That been long time on the phone, and we remember that the IRS, closed, even though they're still closed, but it was very difficult at the beginning of the pandemic to kind of cope with this. But Santla, I think we've been on the forefront. We've been on time. We reacted. We put a virtual service in terms of tax preparation to encrypting email to drop off system where people will drop off their tax return and then their tax papers, and then we will communicate with them through Zoom or Google Meet. So we were able to adjust, I would say, to within the mean of our possibility, I would say, to address those. But here again, as I said, the help, it was there, but the issue with those families are so deep, so dire that they need more help. Let's put it that way. They need more help. They need more stimulus to keep going. And I was thinking about, certain country. I heard in Canada, for instance, they do that $1,200 monthly to certain people qualify. And during the pandemic, it's a type of thing that we wish we could have seen there. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mr. Alphonse, that other countries are providing a little bit more for their citizens, and maybe we should be doing that too. One of the questions that I had for you is, I think you mentioned earlier that you help people who file taxes or who've never filed before, and I know that part of the stimulus package was if you had already filed taxes, you got the payments directly to your bank account. But if you hadn't, there was another type of form that you had to fill up. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Right. The IRS has set up a page for the non-filers. That means people who never file taxes return. So you could come and then, if you never receive it, you go there and you do it. But the thing is, what we've noticed as well in this community during the pandemic, this we knew already, but I think it has been exacerbated during that pandemic time. It's the lack in financial, I would say, technological knowledge, the technological literacy that is the issue in our community as well. People, for instance, to go to the web, to the IRS web, to do that, to make that claim, which is a very, very simple claim. But they ask for certain information that you have to be, I would say, technologically savvy, not really savvy. I mean, you have to have the basics of manipulating a computer to do that. And then a lot of them has issue. As a result, what happened when they go by themselves and then they mess up their account. So they have to come here, and then we have to try to solve those things. So I think we've been successful doing that. Maybe we need probably between 30 to 40 of them during the pandemic. And then this is 40 people that were able to claim this, that they couldn't do it, and were able to have them receive that money. That means they go and change and put their address, they can receive it to their address, or they can go and put their bank account, they can receive the money. And then, that was really a very, I would say, very important experience for them too. Experience for us as an organization to see that, to uncover that lack of technological literacy, and then to the extent we want to address it. We have a plan. I mean, we're in the making actually of putting together a kind of tech lab where people can come, and then we give them. Then we have a curriculum and an instructor, and a coach where they can come and make the experience the basics of technical, you say tech literacy, which is, you know, the basic emails and, you know, how do you open an email, how you go, yeah, how you manage your bank account, what is behind the fintech, you know, when you're doing your bank account and you're doing your account online, what are the possibilities, how we can do that. So we are really committed to do this because it's a need that community that emerged, that was there already, but that emerged really strongly with the pandemic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What I'm hearing is that from both of you is that there's not enough money from the stimulus that helped tide people over. Like, yeah, it did help a little, and it did help stabilize people who were like completely unemployed or were really struggling before the pandemic, but it just wasn't enough, and it has made people feel less valued in society, which I think is really poignant and like just exemplifies everything that we're trying to talk about when what it means to be financially stable and being able to go between savings buckets, right? Let's move on to our next question. How did you shift your program, including your internal operations, to meet your clients' changing needs? And we can start off with Leah.
Yes, thank you. Great question. So what we did early on, well, we already were doing a lot of our appointments with our clients over the phone or virtually, but we, of course, definitely shifted to 100% using virtual with our clients to host and do our coaching sessions with them. We also would switched from our in-person workshops that we were having twice a month and switch them to weekly. And this was probably within a week after the shelter in place order took place. And the reason behind that was I actually had implemented that and began calling the weekly series Community Connections because I realized that the gravity of the situation for our families and I knew that they were in crisis from all the information we were receiving. So we began these weekly workshops. And early on, it was to address the immediate needs, like literally, here is a food bank that you can go to. There's a food truck over here in this area of the Oakland community where you can go get some food, and diapers were shortage. So there was an ability for us to provide resources, and it was changing every day for what was available. And what we began to see was that the parents attending these weekly sessions began to provide information as to what was available literally in their neighborhoods, where they were driving around, what they were seeing, and they begin to have this sense of community with each other to help each other out. So we've continued these weekly community connections. We have them every week in English, and we also have them every other month in Cantonese and monthly in Spanish. Our attendance has gone through the roof. I know that in less than a year, we've had over 1,000 attendees that have attended, and some of them are just regular weekly attendees to these, basically it's kind of a support group with a financial component with it as well. So I start these sessions out by really opening up the floor, asking a parent to share what is currently happening for them, something they want to bring to group level. And it could be a financial topic. It could be a topic about the struggles they're having with their children being homeschooled. It could be a topic about, this is how I'm disciplining my kids. I don't feel good doing this, but I don't know what to do. And so it's facilitating this conversation with the parents on how they can manage their day-to-day needs, their family needs. And of course, primarily the topic of self-care comes up all the time. We have new attendees that come on and they want to know what the other parents are doing to take care of themselves. And I will say, admittedly, that most attending these sessions are women. And of course, they are primarily Black and Latino women that are showing up and having these conversations, and the English ones, of course. And so what we're noticing, though, is that they are really, really appreciating these weekly sessions. They look forward to them. It's their only avenue that I'm hearing in which they're able to have a moment of reprieve for themselves, where they can just get fueled up on hearing some encouraging words, sharing what they're going through, learning some new tips, hearing somebody about another parent who may be starting a business from home. How are they doing it? What are they doing to try to generate some sort of revenue as they're stuck at home and they're not able to go to work? So we've been really seeing a lot of wonderful results with that. And we also provide $20 Target gift cards every time a parent shows up to these meetings. So some of our parents, if there's 4 weeks in a month, they're receiving up to $80 of a Target gift card that's emailed to them. Some of these families are using them immediately for some of their immediate needs. Some of them are maybe stocking them up. I just spoke to a client recently and she said, oh, I'm saving the past couple of weeks because my child's birthday is coming up and this is going to help me be able to have some sort of a birthday celebration at home. I've also heard of some families using the gift cards as a way to offset some of the cash that they're spending. So they'll put the cash that they would typically spend at Target and put it into a savings account. So they're getting really creative and understanding and recognizing that these gift cards are a wonderful tool for them for their immediate needs, as well as some short-term financial needs that they may have, and to provide them with some financial stability. And it also feels really good for them to attend these sessions. And there's an added component to it where they don't feel alone. They don't feel isolated. And they're also getting some resources, more information about how they can apply for maybe some, recently it was Comcast has a application for families that are low income families to be able to reduce the cost of their internet. So hearing about these type of resources to help them be able to reduce some of their expenses while they're getting a little financial boost, also having a sense of community and being able to have these conversations with other peers. And this is new to many of the parents that are showing up. Oftentimes I'm hearing they've never participated in a group setting like this before, and they're seeing so much value. And I literally, it's part of a sisterhood because it is primarily women that have been showing up in English, and I run those meetings, and they're really talking about how it has gotten them by. Recently, I'll share this story real quick and I'll be quiet about it, but just last week, one of the topics a parent brought up that her sibling had committed suicide, and she had lost touch with him a little bit because of the pandemic. And she brought that to the group talking about it. And that opened up the floodgates for quite a few of the women talking about deaths that they recently experienced. So as we know, the pandemic has brought suicide rates up. And so the conversation came up, and the woman who brought up the topic, she has been a regular attendee, and she thanked me and all the women for being there. She said that these weekly meetings is something she's looked forward to and has gotten her through this entire pandemic. She doesn't have anything else where she can reach out to have this. And this is helping her well-being, which is then helping her financial well-being at home. But she is a business owner. She does hair, and it's really helping her to get by. So the importance of having this shift in our program has been great. We're seeing wonderful results in our family and the connection that they're feeling for themselves, with their families, and within their community as well.
That's so incredible and so powerful. I think it just goes to show how much people are needing community and how much it feels good to be able to connect despite not being able to be physically in each other's presence. I think a lot of people have gone through the isolation, feeling like they had no one to turn to, but you guys are able to provide a space for them to be able to talk to other people who are feeling the same way, and therefore creating your own little community, which I think is such a beautiful thing. Let's move to Mr. Alphonse. How did you shift your program, including your internal operations?
Right. So back in March, when early March, mid-March 15, March 15, 17, after they officially declared that the pandemic was there, we closed for about, I would say, a week, but we couldn't stay closed for too long. The reason, the unemployment system in the state of Florida kind of blew up because there was too many people claiming unemployment compensation, at the same time. I think there was something like 2 or 3 million people daily going to the site and trying to claim their benefits, and the system was really not operating well at all. There was a lot of crash, and then there was a lot of slow. And you may understand that when you're dealing with a community that have technical literacy issue, so the service to provide them is to have people here to help them claim those benefits. So the first reaction was to reopen with a minimum staff, like I think we did to 3 to 4 people. as staff, and that help simultaneously for the 5 give you less than 10, because at that time no more than 10 person couldn't stay in the building. So, and of course, with all the protection, the mask and distance, the 6 feet distance between employee and clients. What is important to know as well, globally, the agency has shift to virtual as well, because we have parenting, for instance. The parenting program is a program where we teach a parent basic interaction with their kids, because the parenting program is a necessary program in our community. Why? Because this is a community that is transitioned to between a system that they know, and then a new system they have to learn. So we observe as time goes by, there was a kind of lack of, I would say, communication between kids and parents, and due to the fact that there was a cultural shock between those two, because they grew up here and the parents, they're first generation immigrant, and there's that dynamic that didn't go well. So the parenting program that we initiated 4 years ago was something that we do kind of live. You come and you have 8 sessions, and rapidly they switch to put those sessions virtual, and they were able to continue and to progress to that, and then and have not have it disrupted, I would say. The program generally, we were able to continue to provide that kind of the same thing for the fellowship. The fellowship is a program that we have that teach new the youth how to become the new leaders of the community, and so that program also shift completely virtual. And then it was able to continue, and so on. All the programs they have gone to that, including the tax preparation service, where we have to switch completely virtual for at least, I would say, a month or 2. And then after that, we mix them with a kind of drop off as well. But between a month of 2, we made about 60 return completely virtual, which was great, and people were happy because they were continue to receive their money, their refund, and which can help with a situation like this where money is really very, very scarce, very, very rare. And because money is not enough to cover the expenses, so the more the merrier. So that was, I would say, the achievement of doing about 60 return in 2 months. That was really something that we were very, very happy about.
Awesome, Mr. Alphonse. You also had mentioned something about people using their retirement funds to cover their current needs. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. What we've noticed as well by the mid, I would say, end of April, early May, people were coming with, their retirement account and say, listen, we want to pull up certain money. They say, of course, some of them we help them because they are borrowing that money, and then this is the money that will be replenished automatically through their paycheck. We were able to help them with this, but the certain others we kind of try to dissuade them, better to do that, not to do that, because it's not money that you put aside for 20 years. You're not going to be able to, to replace it like this. So some of them we were able to tell them, listen, not do that, but we don't know if they follow our advice. But we advocate for them not to do if they get reimbursed, and most of them are people who really have I think, extended their unemployment benefits. They no more unemployment, and they needed the money to, to pay their bill to continue to function. So they had no choice. Again, we come back on the fact that the stimulus wasn't enough. The more it should be more should be done to help the communities.
Right. Yeah. Thank you both for sharing. I think it's super important that we've transitioned into this virtual learning world. So, not neatly, but like we're able to come up with spaces that we were physically missing in the virtual world. Especially being able to continue programs or bringing people together while they're not able to get together physically, I think is really important. I think it's also like super telling of both of your organizations being so essential to the community that people are coming to you for resources. They're coming to you, sharing resources. I think that's incredible work that you guys are doing on the ground. Before we move on to our last question, I want to remind everyone in the audience to please submit your questions in the chat box, and we'll keep taking questions after this next question. So the next question is, how do you see the field using these kind of flexible saving solutions to help clients in the future? And we can start with Mr. Alphonse.
Our saving program usually, basically, it's just we encourage people to save at tax time, and then when they come, because of their recipient of EITC, they are qualified for the EITC. They have big refund, and we ask them, we advise them to buy saving bonds, which is not it's not an investment that has a big return, but if you look at it as you want to do something for your kids, you don't have a lot of money to go and open a college fund, because college funds are very expensive, and you can do at that time, you can do that and buy about $1,000 bonds for your kids out of $600,000-$700,000 you receive as a refund. But it would be what we've noticed, a lot of people kind of shy away sometimes because they say, we have too many things to do with the money. We cannot take any part of this to take care of any kind of investment now because we have present needs, immediate needs. So to that extent, I think it would be great if we can have an incentive for those people to divert part of their refund to a saving account or to buy saving bonds. Yeah, now gift card from supermarket around whatever, or kind of a Visa, $30 Visa complimentary card for that. It would be great. And this, you have to find the funders to do this, and then it's not easy either to do for the funder to come up with the money and that encourage that type of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great insight. Leah, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, sure. The stipend payments that our clients receive for their coaching they're often very surprised by it, and they'll say, well, why am I receiving this? And they're also very deeply grateful for that, to receive the payments. And so I just see this in the future that, by being able to provide the short-term or the immediate assistance financially, even in this amount of up to $300, it alleviates so much stress for our clients when they receive it, because otherwise, coming up with up to $300 on their own could be very difficult for them, depending on what their circumstance is at that time. So I see this as a program that really could benefit our communities, and even if it's later on down the road, other touch points with our clients, kind of checking in where they are. I would love to see a future where we also provide some other assistance financially, if possible, some sort of short-term financial assistance again, and that they qualify for it, and depending on what their need is. I don't know, I'm just speaking out of the box here, but I do know that it gives the clients just that extra boost that they need in that moment. And they feel as though there's somebody there that recognizes their needs and what it is that they're trying to achieve, and just to have that extra support. And it's also easier for them. So I often hear too a lot of frustration from clients when they're working with other agencies, you know, from like receiving cash aid benefits or food benefits, about how difficult it is or frustrating it is. They got to try to get through to somebody, and different paperwork, and how hard it can be to get all the paperwork if they miss something. And when with us, it's just such an ease for them. I mean, it's really a very easy process in which they're eligible, they sign up, they get a phone call, next thing you know, they receive some assistance. So it's something that's an added bonus to help offset the difficulties they're experiencing with some of the local county agencies that they're working with and receiving services with. That can be very frustrating for them, especially in their time of need, and they feel like they're jumping through a bunch of different hoops. They don't have to jump through hoops with us. You know, you qualify, there you go. So I would love to be able to see more programs out there like this, similar to ours, where we recognize that our clients, they know what it is that they need, and they are very diligent about being able to put the funds where they need them. They're not, you know, people who just are not responsible, or they're just going to waste the money. No, they are very, very much aware of what it is they're going to use it for themselves and for their families. And then you add the coaching in with it, and again, they're able to realize and understand some of the behaviors and beliefs that they have around money, and address some of the fears that they have in working with a coach. And again, another opportunity for them to feel seen and heard in a safe space with somebody that is not judging them or shaming them for what they're currently experiencing in life. So I see a bright future in these type of programs that would be a wonderful and valuable asset for our communities, lower communities of color, income communities of color, to be able to help them achieve financial stability in the short term and also long term.
Amazing. I think that you summed that up great. It was perfect ending to our interview panel. And I think that overall, you guys just highlighted so many different things that your community needs as emergency needs, but also how you're able to help people navigate this time, and how you're able to help alleviate some stress. I think that's one thing that we don't touch upon as much, how much stress comes from financial burden of not knowing where money is coming from, or where you're going to get if you're unemployed, where the next paycheck is coming from, etc. Just being able to alleviate some of your clients' stress through financial coaching is just phenomenal. And being able to help navigate them through this time is something that is like so deeply needed in almost every community right now. Now we'll open it up for questions from the audience. Please send in your questions using the box provided. And I think we have a couple of questions coming in, so I'll start us off. The first question is for Leah. Can you tell us more about how you're sending out emergency funds to your families? Is it through a card?
Well, right now, we don't have a card. I know that we're looking into it. What we have been doing since the inception of the program is being able to provide these stipend payments through PayPal. So the clients will typically need to have an email and have a PayPal account, and we send it that way. But we did see an increase, especially with this pandemic, that clients are requesting that to be in a form of a check. So we work with a community partner, a bank institution, and the checks are sent out directly from the banking institution to the clients. So we'll find out more when we're able to get those cards, but we think that'll be a great benefit for the clients as well, because most of them are on some of the SNAP food benefits, and those come in the form of a card. And I know even unemployment benefits are in a card too. So we're shifting to get on board to be able to provide that, as our clients are familiar with using these prepaid cards.
And I think there was a follow-up question to that. Somebody asked how they're funded, the gift cards actually, how those are funded, and local funders usually resist giving cash directly to individuals, or are your funders supportive of it?
So basically, our gift cards are funded from our general operating funds from philanthropy and individual donors. And originally too, I want to point out that the gift cards prior to the pandemic were provided when our participants showed up for in-person workshops to help offset the transportation costs, because it was difficult for them to be able to get to the on-site location for transportation. But since the pandemic took place, there was a limit on our gift cards as well, up to 10, but when this pandemic hit, we were able to lift that restriction. And so now for now, we have funds set aside, and we don't have a cap on how many gift cards that a parent or family can receive when they attend our community events.
I think we have another question related to the gift cards. I think it's a popular subject right now since people want to be able to give out aid directly. But somebody asked, do clients who receive the gift cards as a stipend/attendance have to claim that on their taxes? And if you don't know the answer, that's okay too.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. That's something that I'm really not going to be able to answer that, but I know that has come up. And I know that we are putting in place some systems that we can begin to pay attention to that. But again, that's not my department.
Okay, no worries. This is a question for both of you. Do you have any thoughts on some of the long-term solutions that these emergency needs are highlighting?
Can I go first, if you don't mind?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Alphonse.
Yeah. I think, for my community, the long-term solution is essentially rooted into more education and more, because when you're looking at the issues that we're facing as a first generation of immigrant, a lot of people have problem transitional into the system because they have a lack of, I would say, basics from academics first and technical after that, So the long-term solution, we have to, in order to make those families more independent, more able to pitching in the system, more able to go mainstream in the system, we have to provide that basic education. Basic education, that means, more tech, and people are in school and they're doing better. Some of them need to change, for instance, job, and they spent probably years and years in their previous job, and the pandemic came, boom, and they're out of job, and they're not going to find another job because the job that they're out of, it's a minimum skill requirement job. So we need to leverage those skills. So that's the reason I'm saying I'm talking about education and maybe reconversion in terms of work. The training, more contact with the school system to intensify more training for that population, and then give them more access. And we have an advocacy part as well here where we work on those as well. But for our community, it's just really on the long term, in order for us to reach that stability in terms of financial, they have to be able to access other jobs that, because the one that they lost, they are not going to come back, because those are, they were in hotel doing some very minimum skill jobs, and then now they need to be retrained and access maybe more, I would say, the better paying job. I would say that better paying job that will, and this come with time and with that training.
No, yeah, I think that's extremely important, especially for, as you say, first generation immigrants who are coming to this country that don't really have the knowledge of the systems in place in the U.S. Aside from the metric system, we have a lot of different systems that other countries do not use. So they need to understand how the financial system works, how the credit system works, and a bunch of other different things that really impact their lives overall. So I think that's really important, Mr. Alphonse. Leah, the same question for you, which if you want me to repeat it. any of the long-term solutions that these emergency needs are highlighting?
Yes, I'm seeing as a long-term solution is it's highlighting the need for the parents in our community to have that sense of connection with others in the community who are going through similar challenges. And by being able to have conversations with them and developing those relationships, because they know what they're experiencing in the community. And when there is cross conversation amongst our Black families, our Latino families, our Asian families, and they're having that sense of community within the program, knowing they're all participating in a similar program, there's just something about that synergy that's there. And they're able to provide each other with wonderful resources and peer support as they're going through these challenges. And to keep in mind long-term that, yes, the financial literacy and education is absolutely key and important. Also, by being able to keep in mind that we got to be able to understand that there are oftentimes a lot of our families have experienced a lot of trauma outside of a pandemic. And sometimes we just got to be able to be there and, of course, meet them right where they are and listen and hear what it is that they're speaking up, saying that they need, and facilitating those conversations in a way that they feel safe, where they feel heard, and also where they're seeing that their voices and the things that they're requesting. So for example, we often will provide at the end of our weekly community connections a survey, and we want to hear back from our families on what it is that they want to learn. So by listening to them and then by being able to implement some of the things that they want to be able to learn about and providing that back for them, again, it's another element of them feeling seen and heard. So a long-term solution for these emergency needs is definitely getting things in place so that they don't feel alone, that they feel that connection, that they have that support, they feel seen and heard, and they know that they can rely on others in their community and also develop friendships outside of that. So we're also seeing some of our participants, they are developing friendships outside of these meetings, and they're really wanting to help each other, and they're very committed and dedicated to being able to do that. And it's just a beautiful thing if we can just really hone in on that sense of community as they're learning about how to manage their finances, and as we're providing with them with some short-term, financial assistance that they're able to then decide for themselves what is best for themselves and their families, and being able to honor that our clients know and our people in the community know exactly what is best, and we got to be able to listen to that and respect that.
Yeah, both of you, great insights. I think overall, another thing I heard was that there's a higher need for community to have input into the policies that are shaping their lives. And I think that leads us to our next question from the audience, which is that both of what you've said throughout the webinar have massive policy implications for the upcoming stimulus payments of $1,400 or so predicted. If $1,200 wasn't enough for clients, how much do you think is a necessary amount for people to stay above water and also set money aside?
Well, isn't that?
And we can start with Leah if you want.
I'm like, why don't we just pay everything? But yeah, I know that's a wonderful question. If the families that we're working with, if they were receiving $500 to $1,000 a month consistently, that would make a huge difference for them. Now, whether that's overall, there's taken into consideration kids, the number of children they have and their expenses. That really needs to be taken into consideration. And I really wish that we could also take into consideration the cost of living in different areas. Just to be able to give a flat amount across the US it just was shocking, but that's what we received. So if there was the ability to receive some sort of consistent, compensation or stipend payments or something where these families knew it was going to come in, I think that would be wonderful. And I would say that if there's an added bonus that they're receiving coaching with that, so that they can continue on their journey to be able to manage this. And, our families, when they receive this coaching and when they get that sense of empowerment as they're starting to put money aside and they have that support. I mean, it would really, really make a huge difference in their families' lives, I think, if they were able to receive consistent payments with quality, consistent financial coaching along the way.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love that. Mr. Alphonse, what do you think is the necessary amount for people to stay above water and set aside some money?
Because of there's a lot of needs. There's a lot of people with different level of I would say economic situation different. We cannot really give a number, but what I could say, it's I think it's something for the policymakers to think really about. That's the reason I mentioned advocacy before. It's just if it's not that pandemic, even though when we're out of that pandemic, there will be other pandemic, in the future. And then Bill Gates said that really in 2012. He said that the worst thing that we have to be afraid during the 21st century is a pandemic. And they'll be coming. They'll be coming, and then the virus becoming more and more intelligent, and they're mutating. So I think if we could, on a long term, find a way, I would say through policies, and then put mechanism in place where, when that type of situation happen, what the government would be able to do, I mean, to sustain the economic level, I would say the level of expenses, and then not really the full level of expenses, because there are people you won't be able to do that. But it would be a great idea to do this. Many countries, because I've lived in a country before that, before I lived in the United States, and many other countries, they're doing those things. Of course, they're smaller, because the scale of the United States is huge. It's 320 million people. You can't think really the same for 300 million. You think the measure that you put in place for a population of 6 million, you see what I mean? So, or 50 million. But it's important that we think about this. There's no numbers. I can't give you a number, but there is a system that we could find a way to put in place based on their income. You see what I mean? As I said, it could be to taxes, it could be to more credit, it could be bonus. When you have a certain level, I don't know, because I'm not really a policymaker, and I'm not really into this to tell you the numbers that will go. But if you need to do that, you need to be sustainable with this. That means you need to take it close. You need to think about it globally, like policy, in terms of policy. This is what is going to be done in thinking about if something happened, like a pandemic, or like I don't know, kind of big disaster, a bacteriologic war, for instance. So what we're going to do for that, and then this is where we're going on that, where my thoughts are going on that. I don't know if that I answered that questions, but it's my deep feeling on this. Yeah.
No, what you're saying makes sense. Something along the lines of comparing us to other countries like Canada, as you mentioned, who has been giving monthly incentives over the pandemic. I think someone has their hand up. Molly from, let me see. Oh, maybe they put it down. Never mind, sorry. But I think we have one more question from the audience. If you guys have questions, please drop them in the chat. This is for both of you. Do you find that your participants have difficulties opening a bank account? If so, how do you help them overcome that barrier?
I never really, in maybe, I don't know, 10 years of experience, I never really met a client who has a difficulty to open a bank account. That client might have a difficulty to communicate what he wants. But Going online is another issue. I'm talking walking in the bank and try to open an account. We don't have that issue. I think I've met probably 2000, long time ago, 2007. I just start with Santla, 2006, I think. There was a guy like this who has an issue. We have to go to the bank with him. The bank was next door, and he explained these things, explain to them, and then translate for him. But usually, the unbanking in our community, according to Santla, the Santla client, the unbank are something like 0.1%. Yeah, we don't really have that issue. The people who or if they don't open bank account, it's because they are undocumented. They cannot keep the money in the bank, and some of them even have a bank account like being undocumented. They have a bank account because somewhere down the road they have an ITIN somewhere in the past before 2001 they had, and then the bank account is still there. So I don't see that very often, people who can open a bank account.
Oh, okay. What about you, Leah?
So the question again was, if there's clients that don't have a bank account, how do we work around that?
Yeah, and if they have they ever had difficulties opening a bank account?
Yes. So we definitely have clients who are unbanked, and we've definitely had clients who had difficulties opening them. And there's those who are making the conscious choice not to have a bank account. And there's a variety of reasons why. We do have a community partner with a credit union that we work with where we can help our clients open the bank accounts. Oftentimes it could be, especially for our Spanish speaking clients, it's a language barrier. I've noticed in the Black community, it's a lack of trust in the banking system, where the conversation will be, well, I don't trust banks. They might have heard somebody say that, they had a bank account and money was taken out of the bank account, and I don't want anyone taking my money. So when it comes to those particular circumstances, that's a coaching conversation. And throughout some of my coaching, I have helped some clients be able to move past and through the fears that they have of the banking system. And again, it's having conversation about what it is that they really are wanting to achieve for themselves and for their families. They want to be able to buy a home one day. Well, probably going to need to have a bank account. The different goals that they want to accomplish, and being able to have the conversations and provide the education about the benefits of having a bank, and also walking them through, the different type of bank accounts, and having them really understand what the fees are, and having those type of conversations with them, because it comes down to them being able to make an informed decision for themselves. And once they're able to have an understanding of the banking system and how it works, and they can understand what it is that they're reading and looking at on the website when they're looking at checking accounts and savings account, and what it means to have one, and the fees that are associated. So it's that educational piece. And when they're able to understand, the likelihood of them opening a bank account is a lot higher. And I've definitely seen some clients who have moved forward with opening a bank account and feeling really confident on being able to have one.
Awesome. You guys just highlighted so many things throughout this conversation, including language access. I think it's amazing that Open Promise is able to offer things in English, Spanish, and Cantonese. Being able to provide basic skills and basic education in technology and any resources that the clients need. I think all that is amazing. And especially understanding that you guys are filling the gap right now for the clients who are feeling left behind, the clients who feel like left out of the community. You guys are really the stopgap right now between that. And I just want to thank you both for your time, for your sharing your expertise with us, with the with everyone in the audience. Phenomenal work on the ground, just absolutely phenomenal. We can move on to the next slide. And one more, sorry to use. Thank you again, Leah and Alphonse. You have their email addresses if you would like to reach out to them to find out more about their programs or talk to them about anything we might have missed during this call. For now, we would like to thank them once more, give them a huge round of applause for all their hard work and everything that they've shared with us today. And we'll move on to next steps and wrap up. So for next steps, just a reminder that the savings roundtables are happening. And if you guys want to apply for them, you can click the link in the chat that was sent out. Those are conversations that we're hoping to have around savings and savings during this time with practitioners, others in the field, including researchers, other intermediaries. We hope that they're going to be a good get into the weeds conversation. Yes, Kiva just dropped the link in the chat again. So if you guys are open and interested in that, please apply. And next slide. The series continues. Come back Tuesday 3/3, that should say, for our third webinar. Visit our advocacy center and complete the survey at the end of this this webinar. Sign up for other networks and campaigns. Let us know your suggestions for future call topics at the end of the. You can add that to the survey at the end of the call. Prosperity Now community. We have several networks for you to join, including the Financial Coaching Network, the Racial Wealth Equity Network, the Affordable Home Ownership Network, of course, the Savings Network, and a couple of others, including the Child Savings Account Network, the Taxpayer Opportunity Network, the Health Wealth Network, and the Innovations in Manufactured Housing Network. Next slide. Visit our advocacy center to call, email, tweet, or schedule a visit with your member of Congress with a simple click of a button. Next slide. Thank you all so much for joining. We're so grateful to have you on the call today. Please complete the survey, be safe, stay well, and be sure to keep your distance. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Thank you both.
Thanks for having me as well.
Thank you for joining.